Yeah, let's start off with e4, free hosts. Oh, look at the even rating. 1822 to 1823. Plays the French defense. Okay, we're going into the classical French. He does this. This is one of these funny lines where the best move there is to retreat the bishop. And he can play his knight here, I guess. Or he can retreat. Okay, I don't really know how the line goes from here. I'm just going to shore up the center. Typical kind of play. Put the knight here. He's going to bring the queen here, I guess, and that'll be a little bit annoying. How about if I maybe go the other way with the knight? The knight could come here, right? Looking at this square. After I take the bishop. Or the bishop could retreat. But no, he trades, okay. Now I can play the knight here, but it's not with check. So, well, let's go ahead and play it there anyway. It's an annoying piece, and the knight can always trade itself off for that bishop if trouble strikes. Okay, he goes to undermine right away. I see. If he takes... How about if I take... My knight is not hanging. There's a fork here. So let's go ahead and take here. I'm looking at this fork. So he can't take the pawn right away. I'm in a little bit of danger here because I haven't castled. Playing a little bit riskily. He decided to go there anyway. Does he have a great counter here? Ah, he has a check. And I can block like so. Got two pieces hanging. Okay, so let's take the rook. Now I decided to grab a pawn instead of continuing. Well, he can... let's see. Do I have something better than just taking there? If I put the bishop here first. Probably not. Let's just take that. So how many pawns do we end up with? 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So... I am up the exchange and he has a pawn for it. Ah, but he left his bishop hanging. So I'm up a rook now. Should be good enough. Even though he will get some checks and stuff, I do have to be a little bit careful. Well, then I can just castle. He was threatening the fork here. But yeah, he resigned. There's nothing here for him. Nice game. Okay, let's get another one. Maybe we'll play a rapid game this time. Igorn, 2096. Last time I faced a player like that, he won. Yeah, let's try the old Rui Lopez, or whatever White decides to go for. But I like the Rui Lopez as black. And he goes into it. It's an interesting line for both sides. So far we're doing the main line, closed Rui Lopez. Castling is a standard reply. Then I'm about to do something slightly offbeat. That's playing the Neo-Archangels variation with the bishop development here, after kicking his bishop and developing my knights. This pawn, you always have to watch out for taking this pawn, because his bishop can come here, especially after I'm about to play this move, defending the center. So I'll have two loose knights if I try and grab that pawn there. So it's not a good pawn grab, but you don't have to take it. And then a lot of times White tries to grab a pawn with some tactic here, but he just defends. That's very proper, correct. Okay, and he stops my bishop from coming out and pinning his knight, and I will do the same. So this is a very standard position then. No immediate tactical breakthroughs. So I think I drop the bishop back, he takes, I take, and it's adequately defended. The knight defends the pawn, the knight attacks it. The usual strategy from White is to undermine the queenside pawns like that. And black will probably put the bishop here, because it can't go out here. Just try and keep pressure on the center. Hold on to the pawn on e5. This is the plan. White sometimes will just push and chase this knight around. Pushing, yeah, will open up this diagonal here. So he's short up the center. I need to find a move now. Bishop here is no good, because this pawn pushes a fork of bishop and knight. Don't think there's any way out of that. So the bishop could go here, but more likely it goes here. Also defends the rook in the corner. The only thing I'm thinking about here is, after I play this move, bishop to b7, then he can push this pawn forward. I move my knight, and then he can take this bishop and give me doubled pawns over here on the queen side. But it'll open up the c file, and there's a potential target there. It's pretty well supported. So, but do I have something else? Well, I put the bishop on b7, he pushes the pawn. I could take his bishop now, but then he takes the knight. And, well, then I could take this pawn with check. Takes back, and then I take here But that's, I lose 2 pieces for a couple of pawns and a bishop. That doesn't work. Yeah, so I think I have to move the knight. The knight could go here instead of... or the rook could go here. So I can take back with the rook. Guess that's what I'll do. And the knight can come here or go here, I guess. Do I want to start the knight evolution now? The question is, do I want to chase this bishop off that diagonal? It's a good diagonal for the bishop. But when he drops back, it defends the center. I think I will leave that bishop on the diagonal for a while. Bring my knight over to the king side. Maybe play c5 at some point. Ah, there. That was the flaw in my plan. I left the pawn undefended. Yeah. It's complicated, and I forget about things like that. Okay, once again, if I take the bishop, he'll take the knight. And then, I can retreat the bishop, but he takes another knight. So that's 2 pieces for 1. So I have to take the pawn. Well, now I can develop the bishop here. Let's see. This is covered. Now let's go. Let's attack the. Let's attack the center. And he can now take this bishop, as I talked about before, and mess up my pawns over here. But, well, I'm already down a pawn, so that's the least of my worries at this point. Okay, there's 2 attackers and 1 defender, but when he takes here, that brings the rook in to defend. I can put a rook here, but then his bishop and knight are coordinating on the f7 square. So it's a problem. So maybe a queen move to chase the knight first. Is he wondering, it's possible to take and give up 2 pieces for a rook and pawn, but I don't think it's good. It's usually not good. Sometimes there's special cases where it's good. Yeah, so let's attack that knight. He had the same idea too. I was going to bring a rook to this file and pin the knight. So he got his queen out in advance, and he probably was thinking of bringing a rook over to attack my queen. So he doesn't have a dark squared bishop, but neither do I. So yeah, I don't have any compensation for that lost pawn. Don't have the bishop pair or anything. He has a number of ways to defend this pawn, but I mean this knight. But if he brings the knight here, I can actually grab here, I think, because the queen is in front of the rook. So he doesn't want to give up a queen for 2 pieces, typically. So he can defend the knight this way. That does expose a check. Pushes the pawn, I check. He just retreats. Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so now I can put a rook here because this sacrifice is no longer on. But let's start by bringing the knight here, getting the knight out of the way. Want to put a rook on this file. Knight coming in here might be interesting in some cases, but mainly the main order of business here is to centralize my rooks, keep up the pressure on the center. That extra pawn over here, it's his pride and joy, so he will want to hold on to it. Ah, he's maneuvering with his knight. Where is the knight going next? So he's concentrating on this square. Ah, but probably he's looking at this square. That's a good square. Take here and undermine this structure around my king. Not much I can do about that. So let's see, 3 attackers, 3 defenders. Knight takes, bishop takes though. He probably doesn't want to give up his queen for bishop and rook, so actually I'm threatening to take there. So he defends. Now I can pin that knight. I still have this move here. How about queen here first, and then the knight up? If I put my queen on this square, queen on g3, he could immediately bring his queen over to harass or chase. He could bring this knight back to chase. This knight forward also chases the queen. I could drop back here. Yeah, let's try and exploit. Well, okay, let's think this a little bit further through. The most likely move after I put my queen there is knight here, because I haven't got any immediate threat. Then I drop my queen back. Then his other knight may be able to jump in, but it's covered by these pawns. His knight from here is going to be looking at this square, and then these two. I think it's okay. He didn't do what I expected. He just brought the queen back. I can still put a knight here and threaten to take here. My queen is looking at his knight, so his queen is tied down to the defense of the knight. His queen is looking at this loose pawn over here through the knight. That's kind of interesting. But this pawn is not not the most important pawn in the position, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. Yeah, I think knight to f4 is a pretty good move for me. It also looks at a fork. So he just brings a rook out. Logical developing move, but he didn't deal with the threats, right? Knight to f4. He's threatening this fork and he's threatening the take here. How can he solve both those problems? Pushing this pawn, maybe? Yeah, maybe pushing the h-pawn solves everything. We'll see if he finds it. See if I can come up with anything. Moving the king. Okay, so he was expecting that, but he wasn't noticing the fork over here, I assume. Unless I've missed something. That's why I was thinking pushing the h-pawn was maybe a better response. Because it forces me to move my queen, and then he has time to deal with this fork threat here. Well, a nice turnabout if I manage to pull this off. A nice turnaround. There's also a check here. He resigned. Oh, well, that's giving up a little easily. Here, let's take a quick look, and then I'll play another game. Just curious. So that losing the pawn was unintended and surely was bad for me. And you can see, yeah, in the graph, let's roll this up. You can see on the graph white is better starting here when I lost the pawn. So I played there, yeah, question mark. And what should I have played? Rook to e8, yeah. Just put the rook there, very logical and sensible move, and it's a good game still. So let's go back so you can see the whole board. So the rest of the game was good for him. Right here, though, his retreat of the knight was not best. Yeah, the computer wants to play f4, defending the pawn, as you can see. And let's see, so I play some weak moves here. Knight h5 was better. Oh, it doesn't like queen g3. Yeah, but queen g3 stirred up some trouble and eventually led to a better position for me. So in this position, he played rook out, and I played the knight up. And now, okay, so now it's actually back to even at this point, if you look at the graph. It's even since he did that rook move, and I played my knight move. So he needed to play something different here, recommending knight f1. Okay, just bring the knight back and defend these weak squares. Dark squares around the king, I guess. Okay, but instead of that, he went rook, a d1. And then so my knight f4 move must have been the right answer there. And then he went king h2, which allowed this fork. But I guess nothing works here. I could turn this on for a second. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay, so my idea of kicking the queen seems to be best. And then I can play the check anyway. Oh, this is interesting. Check. And take. And then he has to take, and I can take a rook. Okay, complicated stuff. So pushing the pawn forward didn't save him. What's the best move here? After I put the knight up, his best response, well, actually it says king h2 is not a bad response. And, okay, it does give h4 as the best response. King h2 is second best. And then he resigned in this position. You know, I've got a fork here, and I can win the exchange. But if you look at the overall computer evaluation, it still thinks it's about even. So this winning the exchange makes up for my losing the pawn earlier and having a bad structure on the queen side. So it's really an even game. My opponent should have toughed it out. Okay, let's play one more game. Play a quicker game this time. Go with d4. Thomas Varming. Plays a Benoni. That's a move I haven't seen before. Okay, I guess he's tempting me to play this move. so that he can check, but there's no check. There is no check. Where's the knight going after I play f3? Here, 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 or back. You can go back here. You can defend the pawn. I'll just build up a big structure. Lots of white pawns. Ah, he can play there. Okay. Didn't think about the check on that side. And then he retreats. Okay. So he's going to take this pawn, so I guess I need to defend it. Oh, I could have played e5 and the bishop would defend it. e4 rather. So b3 there was probably a bad move. Well, this is a blitz game, so you don't have as much time to think. I could get in that move. I'm happy. So giant. Let's unpin here quickly. I put the bishop here because his knight can come to this square and chase the bishop again. I didn't want to deal with that. So let's get a castle next move. That will unpin my knight. And, oh, that's clever. Trap my rook. So I can tell this guy is full of the tricksy openings. So let's do something with the knight here. That works, right? Chase the queen. And I can put the rook here. Couldn't put the rook there right away because his rook was covering it. So I have managed to survive all these little tricks so far. What's the next one? Let's challenge the bishop on the long diagonal. This looks like his best piece. Trade it off. It's one of my better pieces too, actually, but that's what happens sometimes. I was just looking at my light squared pawn structure, and usually when you have something like that, you want to trade off your light squared bishop and keep your dark squared bishop. Oh, so he decides to keep that. So now, what? maybe bishop here. Also, I didn't like the pressure on the b file, the bishop blocking my rook. There was potential danger there. Okay, step back with the queen. So now if I put the bishop here, he'll put his queen here on the white square. Does that accomplish anything? Let's just lift the queen. Okay, looks like he's going to try and lock up the pawn structure. But he's taken the pressure off of here, so let's start pushing pawns. Push those pawns in the center. So I push, he takes, I take, he takes, and he's got doubled center pawns. But I can't take back. He does have an extra pawn. I am giving him that pawn. Okay, takes my knight. He gives me the bishop pair, although he messes up my king side. takes that way, takes with a piece. Let's get rid of that. Yeah, for some reason I thought he was going to take with the pawn there. Let's bring this rook over to the f-file. And yeah, let's see, he's looking at that pawn. Well, let's defend it. Why not? Could, well, if I put my bishop here, he'll take it with the knight, so I guess that's not such a great idea. I think I'll just line up my queen here, and then trade off his knight, and then bring my queen in here. Something like that. Knight here or here, no. Yeah, so bishop takes, bishop or pawn takes, queen here, check. Oh, he goes there. Well, sadly, I can't take here. He takes my queen. Take back. I mean, it's rook and knight for queen. It's probably not good. Check here. If I just retreat, he's going to trade off the rooks. This is still a little bit out of play. But retreating is probably the wisest course here. Yeah, so he's harassing my queen. I'm going to go back here. I want to bring my knight around, get it in the action over here. There were some ideas of maybe taking here, but taking here to undermine this knight, but actually he can just take with this knight, so that would help him. That would help him. Okay, so this knight, where can it go? Here, here. That's maybe a problem, or he can take the pawn. Taking the pawn I'm not so worried about. Knight here is something I think I need to defend. Yeah, okay, he's just going to trade everything off. Hey, it makes sense, but disappointing for me. So how do I dislodge this knight? I do have the bishop pair here. Maybe he will voluntarily undefend that knight, and I will be in good shape. Ah, he kicks my knight. That's a good move. If I go here, he can just take it. So I have to go here. I could take his knight first. Gives him the choice. Ah, he deserves to take the bishop. So now it's just knight and bishop versus knight and bishop, but the bishops are opposite color. And you know, his pieces are in better positions than mine, I think. Well, we'll see what we can do about it. And he has more pawns. Little details like that. Where is weak pawns? This one is weak at the moment, but I don't have a good way to attack it. Let's attack his bishop. And let's see, he can push this pawn forward. That'll drive my king back. Let's see if I can do something with this knight here. His bishop is guarding a lot of the squares the knight could go to, but there maybe are a few squares I could go to. Ah, so he goes there. Okay. Well, it gives up some squares over here that I can go to. He wanted to get that knight move in, I see. There he goes back there again. Okay, so let's get rid of that knight. Have to go back here. Aha, he wants to keep the knight. Okay, so I can go here. Get to this square. Then I can take this pawn maybe. Threaten to take it. Defending over on this side. Threatening to take here. Bishop check here chases the king away. He goes there with check. Not so easy for him to win, but yeah, it looks like he's going for it. Go for the trade. So now it's bishop versus knight. 1, 2, 3, 4 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, he is a stronger player here, I have to admit. Just based on the rating. Plus, he's played well here. Okay, he creates a passed pawn for himself. And let's attack that knight. Then let's go try and get a passed pawn over here. The thing the bishop can do that the knight has trouble with is the bishop can operate on both sides of the board. Aha! He's got an idea here. That's sad. Yeah, that might be winning. I can take, he can take. If I don't take, say if I retreat, he can push the pawn anyway. I take, he takes. I take back, and then it's just 2 moves to queen. So he queens first. I just put his queen in front of it, in front of the pawn. Okay, I can't hold this. He can just leave the queen there, and then his king can walk around and mop up. And if I move my king away, he can just take this pawn. So, good game. And anyway, I'll see you all next time. Bye now.